So for like high growth brands or challenger brands that may be more nimble, right? That may have teams that can move a little faster on this stuff than like enterprise brands or bigger brands that don't, they're just not as quick to move. It seems like this may be a chance to gain a little bit more market share than normal. So what like tactics would you recommend smaller like high growth brands use if they're trying to like gain ground in an industry or strategies or whatever? I mean, Adam's talked about like Trojan horse stuff, like which I think it obviously was an SEO play.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I think in terms of challenger brands in AEO, I think the big thing there is just there's a little bit more of a recency bias on the content that's being produced. So being consistent with your messaging and getting consistent placements in media is going to be a big thing that'll help companies make a big impact quickly. Obviously, that's harder for challenger brands to do than it is for big brands. So it is like kind of a chicken or egg sort of thing. But I think what we've seen is like not everybody's taking this seriously. So there is an opportunity for some first movers. And even now, like, we're no longer at the beginning of this game, but like a lot of companies are still taking it seriously. We're working with one of our clients who's sort of the third largest in their space and has really taken over the majority of the share of voice in their main prompts, and it's allowed them to really grow quickly. So there is an opportunity there, and it's not, it's just because those other bigger, larger establishments have not moved as quickly into this space, have not adapted to the new world that we live in as quickly. So there still is an opportunity to be, I mean, I wouldn't call it a first mover advantage, but like you're still part of the early subset. Like we're still in the early majority here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so you still have an opportunity to beat a bunch of the slower moving brands. That being said, also, I think it's easy to think through your content in a way that fits well with AEO the first time rather than fixing a website with thousands of pages that may be ranking for SEO at various levels of effectiveness and trying to identify which one of those needles in that haystack to try and optimize for AEO. Starting from scratch with like a content strategy that makes things easily retrievable is a little bit of an advantage when you don't have a ton of content and you're writing out for the first time.
So essentially he was talking about different ways to research like what's broken or what the gaps that, your product or service is built to solve in existing industries, which I think is really interesting for AEO because if people are looking for like alternatives to blank, like bigger brands, you could make a case for that, right? Like, so he kind of laid out some of the like look at Reddit threads and see what people are complaining about. For instance, like how do you fix big brands' lack of whatever? Um, and I think that might be a way, like if people are asking those questions.
Yeah, so I think that's another big thing is having comparison content is something that LLMs really like and allows you to borrow on the credibility of one of your larger competitors. So creating content that compares you to them or a top 10 list or something in your space that features you alongside some of the bigger players is another thing that I've seen people do. So there's a lot of different tactics that some of the smaller brands can take that'll allow them to accelerate their growth. But I think the big thing still is just creating content that's easily chunkable and easy to pull out, and then keeping a consistent drumbeat of whatever your brand message is. But like the individual tactics may shift, I think is sort of the other thing. Like foundations need to stay the same. And then, you can try some of those tactics, but I would be surprised if, a top 10 list where I feature my brand as the number one is still relevant in 6 months. So right now that's kind of working very well, but like it's to be seen what the long-term impact of that is.
That's kind of to your point about like winning. Like you can't win, stick a
Yeah.
flag in the ground, right? Like if the target's going to change.
There's no marketing that you can do at any level in any strategy or channel that you can just be like, well, we won. You know what I mean? So it's always iterative and always improving, and I think that's what makes marketing exciting, but also, what keeps us employed.
This is like times 10 because it's moving so
Mhm.
fast, right?
Yeah, the shift to LLM discoverability is like really just like the level of change that we're seeing in the SEO space, but easily 10x, if not more. It's just gone
Yeah.
crazy.
And even like, I mean, ChatGPT ads are proliferating faster than people thought they would. So it's like coming to paid too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how ChatGPT ads perform because they're only showing up on free versions, and advertisers who are willing to invest at least 200,000 are getting into the beta. I think you can sneak into the beta using Criteo or other third-party ad platforms at 50K a month, but it's still just like a pretty tall order for something that's an unproven channel. And also, if you can only target free accounts, like how is that going to work for B? I'm
Right.
not going to, yeah, the whole reason that LinkedIn exists as a marketing channel is I'm able to get in front of people using their business targeting. If you're selling, I mean, I think that's fine for like e-com brands and things like that. You know what I mean? If you're selling Nikes, you can find people interested in Nikes. But like if you're trying to find somebody interested in B2B SaaS tools, if you're hitting them on the free version and they are actually seeing your ad, they're seeing your ad when they're in a mind space that's no longer related to work. You know what I mean? Because presumably if they're at work, they have a paid version. It's like $20. Like, why would you? I've been thinking a lot about like what AI means for like the workplace and like where I think it's really going to disrupt things. And I think like a lot of people are trying to build like agentic workflows to like replace human work. And I don't really think that's the best use case for it, because every marketing skill that I've tested in Cloud Code has delivered something that's like okay, but not great. And it gets you like 80% of the way there. But the thing that makes marketing hard is that last 20% and getting things like really polished. The devil's in the details. Getting things perfect is what is hard. So having something that does 80% of the grunt work, also then that's the foundation on which you would build the work that goes into that last 20%. So that last 20% takes half the time. The first 80% takes half the time. But if you have an AI do the first 80%, that last 20% then takes more time, because you have to go and like figure out what it figured out through its report to finish off that last 20%, which is your expertise for which people are paying you, right? So I think it's interesting in that like a lot of what I've seen with AI for work tasks has been not super effective at saving a lot of time, because it takes away some of the work that allows the end product, the last 20% towards the end product, to be easier to do. You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
it's been interesting to watch like how, agentic workflows in a lot of spaces end up making things take longer in some cases than just like doing the work. I think one of the areas we're really trying to use AI to better our workforce is by helping fill in the gaps that humans struggle with, which is remembering every detail from a conversation so that things don't get like left behind, and creating call intelligence so that we have like an understanding of like what has happened over the last 3 months with a client, or doing pre-call research about new people joining calls or sales calls or things like that. And I think those are the areas where I think AI really works. And I think people are trying to solve a lot of the marketing use cases in, I don't want to say a flawed way, but in a way that is not necessarily saving as much time as you would think it is, if any,
Mm.
because it's covering the work that you need to understand deeply to finish the product,
It also feels like that goes into the kind of winning thing, in that not with like AEO, but kind of like we could streamline operation costs, right? By like using agentic tools to do what people were doing, but that's not working. And it's
Yeah.
also like if you did that whole thing, you would have nothing differentiated about your offering.
I mean, I think that's another big point is like, I hope that AI doesn't really effectively replace content marketing, because then everything's going to look the same. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I think
it's going
that's
to be
why
written
it
roughly
won't.
the same. Yeah, I don't think it
I
can.
mean, you see that on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, right? It's like people who just use AI to spout stuff off, like don't get the engagement.
Yeah, I noticed myself like caring a whole lot less about LinkedIn, and I didn't really have a firm understanding of what it was, but it really aligned with when, you know, Claude and a lot of these writing tools started to get like good. And I just started reading sort of the same, yes, with Eric, well, it's good, but I kept reading sort of the same rehashed crap from a bunch of different people. Um, and I lost
in the
interest.
in the same
Yeah,
style. It's like staccato,
yeah,
line, 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 and it's like it's just not. Yeah, you get sick of it.
yeah. And I feel like
Like it
I've seen
doesn't
also,
surprise your brain anymore, which is
I
kind of
think
the
the big
point.
thing too is like right now, everybody, and it's weird because these are what are getting the most engagement and like the most comments are infographics, which mention Claude for my guide or whatever. But all of the infographics look almost exactly the same. And my eyes just like glaze over. I'm like, well, nothing good for me to read today, and move on, That's been, yeah. So it's like, if the whole internet gets filled with AI content like that, even if it's good AI content and not just full blown slop, it becomes like very difficult to differentiate and like less appealing to like humans. I mean, hopefully, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that's part of the art you mentioned, not just marketing, but like content marketing. It's like that. What part of you needs to want to read it, even if it's like
Yeah.
original stuff. If it's the same format, it's just like I don't know. It's just like
Mm.
boring.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think like, I don't know. I'm sure I've read a lot of AI content that I really enjoyed too, that I just didn't know was AI content. But like the homogenization of like content through LinkedIn has been really tough to like keep me engaged, made
Yeah.
me really turn off to it. And I think that's like what people are going to see when they start to lean into AI skills for marketing stuff. I had a client recently tell me that they their CEO was like, can't we just do this all with Claude Code? And I was like, all right, like we'll talk in a couple months when you realize you can't. But it is like, even if you could, like the amount of work that it would take you to figure out which skills were worthwhile and like which ones to couple with others to do the work, you're going to spend a lot of time and tokens to produce content that will be undifferentiatable from
Right.